Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Alhamdulillah wa sallallahu ala nabiyil. So today being Jumu'ah, after Jumu'ah Salat, we had a big box of cookies by the exit here, and we were letting the brothers take cookies to take with themselves. So one older gentleman, he comes, and I know him really well as a family relative, and so he grabs a few cookies, and then he looks at me and says, "Can I take some for my wife?" But it wasn't a joke, it was an emotional outburst of his that made him say that. And the purpose of that, or why he did that, was because his wife has passed away like a few weeks ago, maybe at the most a month ago. So he's emotionally so like shaken by it, that, and his wife wasn't that old. So he's a old person. His wife was maybe a few years younger than him, but even him, he's physically like, well, he's walking and he's not having any health issues. So his wife was a bit younger than him, so he just, and she went away very suddenly. She didn't have any health complications. So he's just so traumatized by the whole experience. So he just started crying, and I was shaken by him making that comment also. So that got me thinking that even when we look at the seerah of Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when Khadija radiallahu anha had passed away, he was still connected with her so much. They say the way Khadija's sister knocked the door and asked for permission to enter the house, it was so similar to Khadija radiallahu anha that once Nabi sallallahu heard Khawla knocking on the door and asking for permission to come in, that he shook, and he like emotionally he just went to another world, and he was completely shocked by the similarity of Khawla's knocking and permission seeking, that he just completely went back in memories and just was so shook by that whole experience. So although we look at Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam's later part of his life, or the latter part of his life, to be a time where he practiced polygamy, so polygyny is the right word actually. We use the word polygamy, but polygamy has a slight two meanings, which one is not what we mean by it. So polygyny is a real word actually. So Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam practiced polygyny in the last 10 years or so of his life, but most of his life he was monogamous. So we learn that although he had so many wives afterwards, but emotionally he was still fully connected to Khadija radiallahu anha. And if we were to ask, well, what about the wives that he had when he was in the last part of his life, was there one that he was attached to the most? And the answer would be yes. We all know it was Aisha radiallahu anha. And many historians and muhaddithin, they would write that it's highly possible that Mother Aisha was not the best looking amongst his wives, but she had the best of traits overall in her life. So that's what made Nabi Sallallahu love her the most amongst all his wives that he had at the end of his life. So I feel like the summary would be that even if a person does practice polygyny, he is somehow still monogamous emotionally, if that makes sense, because he's still attached to one of his wives more than the other. And I think the only exception, if possible, would be if a person very unlikely finds wives that are extremely compatible with him and extremely likable in all their traits, and they're all amazing. So that would be the very odd exception. Otherwise, generally speaking, whoever practices polygyny, they would end up leaning towards one wife more than others. And that's what the Quran hints towards, in fact, that it is impossible to be fully fair and just to your wives, so at least do not leave one of them completely separated from you emotionally. And I'm gonna get myself in a lot of trouble for even talking about polygamy and polygyny, because my wife won't be so happy about it. But, and again, polygyny is a very long discussion, and I also feel that the way some people take this journey of polygyny and try to have multiple wives, I feel like it just leaves a lot of a trail of pain and suffering for everybody involved. And I think there's a lot of what do you call the maturity needed for anybody who even imagines taking multiple wives. And if not done properly, I fully believe polygamy and polygyny is a marriage wrecker, is a home wrecker if not done properly. So that was a lot for one video. So may Allah give us tawfiq to be intelligent, be smart, and always learn from all aspects of our lives. وآخر دعوانا الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على النبي الأمي.